Getting ready to step into your career era? Set yourself apart with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Hone your skills with apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and more, powered with the latest in creative AI. Students save over 55% so you can build a portfolio you're proud of. Launch your future with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Visit adobe.com/students to learn more.
Welcome into the Tour Coach, everybody. We're about to begin a series here over the next 4 episodes, which is a flashback to my early days on the radio, on PGA Tour Radio Network, and our good friend Ralph Carroll, who produced and was partner on the radio show forever, found these in the archives. It's a series on simplifying golf from my late great mentor, Hank Johnson. If you listen to the podcast, the show, you've heard us talk about it many a times. And so I'm going to sit down with Jackson Koert and Wayne Flint, and we're going to prelude each one and kind of talk about what we heard, how we transfer it to today's teaching. There's some brilliant insights and comments in this series of 4, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Simplifying the game of golf for each of you here on the Tour Coach over the next 4 episodes. I'm super pumped, very excited about this, and I want to remind all of you out there, it's on Dew Sweeper TV. If you go to Dew Sweeper TV on our YouTube, we're going to have videos that accompany this that kind of explain it. Plus, we have no fluff, but real insights, real scenes from instruction with real students, real videos that go up each and every day. We even have some live video look-ins of lessons where you can watch us live on YouTube. So go check out Dew Sweeper TV on YouTube. Also follow us on all our social channels, including Instagram at the Dew Sweeper. And look, none of this would be possible without my boy Mitch McConnell at McConnell Automotive, Bushnell Golf, Shrixon Cleveland Golf, Ian and Amber and the folks at Vineyard Vines, and our new sponsor, Epic Western, Royce and the folks there. I mean, they do an unbelievable job. We've got some cool content coming out soon featuring them on a boat in Key West. Doesn't get much better than that. So keep watching Dew Sweeper TV and the Tour Coach on YouTube. We appreciate all the support. The views have been through the roof. It's some cool stuff. I'm having a blast doing it. And now sit back, listen, and enjoy a blast from the past. But this is some great insight, great instruction. I hope you all enjoy this next 4 episodes as much as I have enjoyed going back through them. And special thanks to Wayne and Jackson for doing it with me. All right, so joining me here on the Tour Coach, a very special Tour Coach. We're starting a series. Our great teachers and good friends, Wayne Flint and Jackson Koert. And guys, first of all, thanks for taking the time this evening, and appreciate you sitting in. And we're going to have some fun. We're rolling out a series. Our good friend Ralph Carroll, I know, Wayne, you and I have known Ralph a long time. He uncovered some archives of the Dew Sweepers from, this is like 2006, 7, and 8. Of the Dew Sweepers back when it was on PGA Tour Radio, way back. And it was a series that we used to do. The second segment of the show was always On the Tee with Hank Johnson, with our mentor, Wayne and I's mentor, Hank Johnson, HJ. And so On the Tee with HJ, and he did a series. One in particular we're going to talk about is on Golf Simplified. And I think when we went through these, one, it was a flashback, but 2, I realized once again, as we've talked often, how brilliant he was. And I know, Wayne, you'll talk a little bit later about how, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt, and how ahead of his time he was on some things. But really looking forward to this. So we're going to start a series here. We're going to replay them, and Jackson and Wayne and I are going to talk a little bit before you hear the actual 10-minute interview that Hank and I did, back that was 15, 18 years ago, 20 years ago, right? Right. So it's going to be fun for me. And Wayne, I'm sure, Jackson, you've heard all the stories, so it was probably cool to listen to. But Wayne, listening to some of those interviews, it was pretty cool. It takes you on a walk down memory lane for sure.
Oh, there's no question, Tony. I was so fortunate back in the mid '80s to get involved with all those guys, and especially mostly HJ. He was kind of my main stream of information, and through him and Golf Digest, I met all the great instructors, and this definitely takes me back on a memory lane trip, and it's amazing, looking back. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looking back on all the teaching we've done over the years together and all the fun we've had, and hopefully all the students we've helped.
Right.
It's really cool to look back and see how brilliant these guys were, well ahead of their time, before all these measuring devices and so on and so forth that we're all fortunate enough to have our hands or have available to us in this day and age. So it's really a cool thing, and I'm excited that we're doing this, and I appreciate you asking me to be involved in it.
Wouldn't have done it any other way. And Jackson, before we jump into the first segment, which is going to be steady post, talk a little bit about what your thoughts were, because you've heard all the stories. You never actually heard some of the instruction and some of the recordings. What did you think?
And I love it all, honestly. It's cool to see how well he knew the golf swing as a whole, and the parts and how they kind of played against and with each other. And he has a really beautiful way of describing everything simply and kind of breaking it down into different buckets for you to understand. And honestly, I love his zingers too, because they are so good.
He was the king of the zinger. Where do you think we got him from? So what he's done, and we're gonna go through. There's 4 segments, and it's Golf Simplified. And for anybody that's taken a lesson from me, and I would say the same too for Wayne. Like, Wayne has his first lesson, which I watched 8,000 of them early on, and if you've taken a first lesson from me, I use a version of mine is a lot of this Golf Simplified, which was I thought it was really some of Hank's best work. I really did, where he took the golf swing, what was going on, and he really simplified it down. And there's going to be people that say you don't need to make it simple, but let me tell you, this guy made people better, and he made teachers great. And he boiled it down to 4 things that he thought were important, and the one we're going to tackle in this segment is steady post. And Wayne, talk a little bit about what he meant with steady post, and we'll kind of go from there.
Well, Tony, he, once you got a person in their posture, he felt like the post should say steady, and the post was pretty much your spine,
mm-hmm.
and he felt like once you bent your upper torso to the ball, and you got it in a balanced position with a little bit of knee flex, and you were balanced in the middle of your feet, that you could imagine a post running through the middle of your spine, kind of out your back, out your rear end, and sticking down into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
He felt like once that post got centered into the ground there, that you learned to move your body to the right and then back to the left without bobbing your head and your upper torso up and down, and that you learned to keep that post steady. Now, that doesn't mean that your head never moved. I mean, it would, but it never moved violently up, down, right, or left. Everything, all the movement around that post kept the post remaining very steady and very stable. So, he never used, he was a stickler on never using the wrong words. So he never said, the word still or anything like that. But he thought steady was a wonderful word. And, the longer I teach and the more I teach, the more I think he was right. I think it's a great word. And the longer I get into teaching and the more I teach, the more careful I am with some of the things I say. I used to, you and I back in the Deer Valley days, if you can remember that, I was firing from the hip a whole lot more than I am now. I'm trying to choose my words a little wiser and maybe a little bit more eloquently, like H.J. used to. I don't know that I'll ever be as good as he was at it, because he was one of the best. He was a
silver-tongued devil.
Yeah, he was very good. Yeah, and if we could all aspire to be that good, we'd have something.
So, I think the one thing that stuck out with me about this, and I've heard Woody, our good friend Mark Wood, who came up under HJ as well, I heard Woody one time with a junior where a junior said, I don't have very good contact, right? And he said, well, if you're not having good contact, that means your head and your spine's either moving up and down or side to side. That always stuck with me, right? And then as I was listening to this, as we were preparing to do it, and I've been listening to him over the last couple of weeks, like I was like, well, that's where the hell he got it, right?
That's exactly right.
Right. And so, Jackson, what did you take from this? What are some of the takeaways you took from listening to this? So HJ's first tenet that was like to have a really good golf swing that's functional, repeatable, hit it solid, is you got to have a steady head, a steady post. Right, rotate around your spine. Tell me some of the things you took from this from somebody who is a great young teacher, laying on your back after surgery now. But but also you've spent a lot of time around Wayne. Now, what are some of the takes you took out of this?
Yeah, two main takeaways there. The first one, I think the visual and what Wayne had described about that post kind of coming out your rear end and running up your spine. That to me clears up what you want the rotation to look like or the pivot to look like from both face on and down the line, how they blend into one picture instead of kind of seeing things. I think previously I would look at it in two different lenses, right, where it was more of kind of a face on pivot, and then down the line I'd look more at the club stuff and then kind of a little bit more into the lower body. But I think it was a really good blend, kind of making that into one motion for me, and exactly what you had mentioned in my time being around all the dew sweepers. I've heard Woody, Wayne, and yourself all say it in some form or fashion about how the spine, the head has to be steady and the spine can't go too far directionally left or right or up and down, and that controls your contact in the circle and the strike.
Yeah, and I thought Jackson, go ahead, Wayno.
Jackson, I couldn't agree more with Jackson. I think we all tend to look from a down the line view. We all tend to look at just what the club shaft is doing and swing plane and maybe some face at the top. But I think you can learn a lot with the steady post, idea. I think you can learn a lot by seeing that post doesn't bob up and down. You can see a lot of good posture stuff and good pivot stuff from the down the line view that we tend to just focus on face on this day and age for a pivot relationship. And I think that if you look at it from both angles, you can learn a lot from both sides.
I think H would have loved some of the stuff we've all done with Colby, where he puts you on balance discs and makes you turn and engages your core and makes you super balanced and makes you stay super steady. I think he would have loved that stuff.
He would have loved Colby hammering people too.
Yes, he would have liked that. But HJ was way ahead of his time on the biomechanical stuff and the capabilities of the body, the fitness stuff. He was way ahead of his time on that as well. And he doesn't get any credit for that, I don't think. But I mean, he was far ahead of his time on that. You're absolutely right, Tony. He would have adored Colby and how he approached, hitting people right between the eyes sometimes with what they need to hear. He would have really liked that.
Well, and I think too, and I think one of the reasons that I've gone and really pursued the stuff that I've done with Colby and obviously with Morgan Jackson, you guys and Aaron is because of that upbringing. He was so big on you can't ask somebody to do something they can't do. Right. And you'll hear through these segments, especially as you get to rotation and as you get to connection in the third segment, that a lot of the errors come because people are trying to do stuff they can't do. And I would venture to say that had he still been alive now and we were able to put him with Colby and he took that stuff where you help people develop that ability to do it, I think he would have loved that.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt because, I talk about it a lot, but one of the most impressive things I've seen in my whole career in golf instruction was when back when Cobra was really a hot commodity and that real famous Greg Norman commercial where he hit the driver and it took out of there like a launched missile, and he looked at the face of the driver and he said, like, holy shit. He didn't, that was the commercial, right? I edited it obviously for TV purposes, but it was during that era. And Hank got up and gave a talk at the Cobra booth at the PGA show, and people were asking him questions, what could cause me to hit a slice? And he went through everything that could cause a slice, in 45 seconds from the fundamentals of golf. And then he flipped for 30 seconds into what could cause that from a biomechanical, physical capabilities perspective. And then he flipped it over to another 30 seconds of what could possibly cause that from a club fitting or a club shaft or a lie and angle perspective. And he covered the whole thing, and, each question in a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and covered the whole ball of wax. And I was like, man, do I ever have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
After watching it, I was like, oh, Lord, I've got my work cut out for me. A few more miles an hour, one way or the other, sure. Okay. But I've never seen a person get worse doing that.
Jackson, parting thought on steady post?
No, I love that. And if you do something that gets them away from a steady post, hopefully you got the breadcrumbs to walk them back to it.
Awesome stuff, guys. I appreciate you sitting in. Look forward to us sitting down here and talking about segment 2, which is going to be rotation, and we're helping folks play better. So everybody, stay tuned. You're about to hear a flashback from our old PGA Tour Network days and the Dew Sweepers and me on the tee with Hank Johnson, and we're starting the Golf Swing Simplified series that we did, and it was started with steady post. Welcome back into the Dew Sweepers, everybody. It's a thrill to have join us here once again on the show. We will go on the tee with Hank Johnson, PGA Teacher of the Year, Golf Magazine Top 100 teacher. Hank, how you doing today?
Doing good, Tony. How about you?
Doing great. Everything is good. And, Hank, I think we would probably agree that one of the things we hear a lot from students is that understanding the game of golf and understanding the golf swing can be really complicated and can be really confusing to a lot of folks, or to most folks. And you've got a great segment today, the beginning of several that you're going to do for us here, and entitled Golf Simplified. It's really going to boil down the fundamentals of the game for folks in a simplified fashion so that they can understand how to get better in an easier way.
Well, Tony, there are a lot of things that you have to do to play well, but I think the more you can simplify things or boil them down to the things that are really important, especially if you're a player that doesn't have an unlimited amount of time to work on your game, the faster you're going to improve. And that's the whole purpose of trying to take this approach to simplify things.
Well, Hank, go ahead and start off with what you consider to be the first of these 4 principles that you're going to outline for us here on the Dew Sweepers, and I believe you've got it titled The Steady Post.
Yeah, and it's not a new concept. I mean, the concept of a steady head has been around for a long time. I've just expanded it so that your trunk is like a post with your head at the top, and you tip that post toward the ball to get in position to make a swing so that you're positioned to swing on an angled or inclined plane. But that top of that post, your head, has to stay steady in order for the arc to stay centered. And if the arc's not centered, then the club doesn't pass back through the ball consistently. So that's the concept today. Steady post, which really is the same as having a steady head.
And Hank, talk about the fact this would be geared towards people that would have been told that maybe their head bobs or sways, moves side to side.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want any movement in the head. Now, it can rotate a little bit. It can even move slightly, but for the most part, I want my students to think about the head just staying in the same place through the whole swing. Now, it can bob up and down. It can move toward the line or away from the line, or it can move away from the target to the right or toward the target to the left. So, it's a complicated thing because it's three-dimensional. It can move in any one of 3 different directions. But the whole idea is to keep your head steady during the swing so that the arc of your swing stays centered or consistent, and then when you put the ball in the right place, the club runs into the ball without you having to over-control it.
And, Hank, this would be, for the people that come to you or the Dew Sweepers out there listening, the folks that really struggle with, solid contact and consistently solid contact, this could be something that they really could start with and focus on that might help them get that club back to the correct low point, time and time again.
Well, it's certainly one of the things that I look at early in the first lesson to make sure that I don't have a center that's moving around so much that the club can't control. The club is out of control as far as its arc is concerned, and therefore you have to try to find the ball with the club. I don't like that. I like to just put the ball in the way.
And I remember watching you one time, Hank, telling somebody that if you don't mind, go over those one by one, because I think if you read through this, you probably can help – golfers can help identify if this might be one of their problems.
Well, there's certainly things that contribute to it that are not on the list, but this is a pretty complete list of things that I see in my lessons that contribute to the player not being able to keep their head steady and not being able to keep their arc centered. If you have poor posture to begin with, then your body can't move correctly. So I'm kind of a fanatic about the posture from which you start your swing. If you attempt to over-rotate your body related to its flexibility, then your head will have to move to allow that excessive motion. So staying within your own range of motion is really important. If you have bad hip action or shoulder action, if you're trying to move them in angles and planes that are not compatible with the position of your head, then they're going to push your head off the ball one way or the other, and so just faulty mechanics can cause the head to move. And you mentioned excessive movement in your feet and knees. That's certainly a contributing factor. A lot of people have a preconceived idea about where they need to swing to at the top of their backswing, for instance, to get the club parallel to the ground. That's something that we've heard all of our lives. It's just that not very many people have the physical flexibility to get to that position without giving away more than they're gaining.
Hank, one of the things I'd like you to, if you don't mind covering, is because I think a lot of folks hear this and they get confused with that idea that they're supposed to keep their head down or their head still. Do you mind talking about that for the dew sweepers? Because I know that I've watched you and I've talked about this with my students as well. I mean, they're different things.
Well, if you have your head too far down, your chin too far down onto your chest, you really can't make a shoulder turn and keep your head steady. So the chin has to be up enough for the shoulders to pass underneath it when they turn. And it's just a matter of keeping the neck in line with the spine and not letting the head droop forward and the chin get down on the chest too much. If you had on sunglasses, you'd be looking out of the bottom half of the lenses of your sunglasses. Just good posture, just like your mom always told you. Sit up straight. Hold your head up, I mean, it's just good posture. It's the same as any other activity that we're doing.
And Hank, also along those lines, the idea that you keep your head behind the ball, people trying to keep their head behind the ball, thinking that's keeping it steady. Do you mind talking about that as well?
Well, I think the problem with thinking about keeping the head behind the ball is it actually moves to the right or away from the target down during the swing. You want to keep your head steady until after the ball is gone, but then it's beneficial to let it release and follow the swing so that it doesn't overly restrict your motion. I'm not a big advocate of telling people to stay behind the ball. I don't think there's anything wrong with getting behind it, but you don't stay back there. That'd be like staying back while you try to throw a ball with velocity. You can't do that. Your body's got to be moving in the same direction you're going to throw.
And Hank, if you don't mind, we got just a little over a minute left. Give the dew sweepers out there maybe some kind of a way or a drill that they can do that might be able to monitor this on their own or help them find out if this might be an issue with them.
Well, the best one that I can think of is to use your shadow. Just get with the sun behind you so that your shadow's directly in front of you on the ground, and just make some swings watching your head. And if it moves around, then your shadow will move, and you can see it move, and that way you can get a sense for what a steady head feels like. Now, you can't make a complete swing, but you can make the biggest portion of your swing, and you can see that head stay steady, and you can get a good sense of it. You can use a mirror the same way, except with a mirror you're not looking down at the ground where the ball would be. So I really like the shadow drill, shadow boxing, to just monitor what your head's doing during the swing.
Hank, this has been some great information. I know it's the start of 4 segments that are really going to make the game more simple, more easy to understand, help people improve in a more simple way. And again, we appreciate you coming on, and I think this is really going to help some people play better golf.
Tony, it's always good to be with you.
Don't forget, everything that you just heard and some videos that accompany it that kind of help explain it are available for you for this whole series on our YouTube channel. Check out our YouTube, Dew Sweeper TV on YouTube, where we have daily insights, daily live look-ins, instruction with real students. It's real-life scenes where you can help improve your game or even just have a good time. I'm Tony Ruggiero. Thanks for watching The Tour Coach.